Hello everyone, so it's another video on neovim configuration. I just want to update everyone about my neovim configuration, so let's jump right into it. Okay, so let's go to .config and neovim forward. As always, we have a simple structure. Okay, so this is pretty big structure. Well, it's a basic structure for our neovim configuration, which has init.lua at the top level and a lua directory, in which have subdirectories like base, core, and plugins. All of those subdirectories has their own meaning. Like base is only for UI and icons, whatever. And the core options are just auto commands, mapping, and options. And plugins, you can see every plugins has their own dedicated file. And at the end we have snippets, which is useful when I'm doing my computer programming contests. So let's talk everything one by one. Open it by neovim. So first thing first, we have init.lua, our entry point to our neovim configuration. So here at the top level, I disable some warnings about undefined fields, which is sometimes annoying when configuring the neovim. So I prefer to disable them. Okay, so move on to the options. First we have includes our options, then mappings, and then auto commands. Okay, then we bootstrap our lazy. This is the way to bootstrap your lazy in official documentation, which is given by Folky. You can check it out in his GitHub repository of lazyvim. Not lazyvim, it's lazy.nvim. Okay, cool. So this is the way how you set up the lazy. So let's talk about options. So okay, let's open a new file and let's open the options.lua. So these are basic options which are configured, and here the same line which disables the undefined field warning. So we store this table opt called opt in an opt variable, which is used for conciseness, nothing special. So these are the basic options like status line, global status line. If I split my window in something like this, so the status line will not be divided into two splits. So you can simply set the last status equals to 3, so that the status line would be for single status line for all of the splits and all of the windows. Okay, cool. I prefer the fat cursor, so I enable it. Then these are some basic like clipboards. This is a very specific for different operating systems, so be sure to check out what is your preferred register to clipboard your text. So it's all up to you what is your operating system that you are using. So it is to show the cursor line, and these are the scroll off. If I go down a bit, so you can see here we have an 8 lines scroll off whenever I go up in a file and down. So this is a very useful options to enable. So these are for indenting. I use 2 spaces indent, and these are some basic options for searching, like ignore case and smart case. These are very useful for searching in neovim file. And let's disable the mouse, because we are vimmers and we don't need mouse. And there are numbers and rulers. I disable the ruler because it's the thing that I'm not using very frequently, so I disable it. And enables all types of number, right? Okay, I disable highlight searching because it's kind of very annoying when you search some text and it keeps highlighting, so I don't like it, so I disable it. I disable the wrap. And these are some basic options to make your neovim work properly. Enable the term GUI colors to enhance your terminal experience when you enable any of your color schemes. So it enables all of the colors, and it works perfectly for your color schemes. It very important options to enable for your color scheme to work. And this is the undo file, which I true enables it. And update time is 250 whenever the git science is updated, so it will work on it. Okay. And these are disabling my default providers, like neovim has some basic default providers like Node, Perl, Python, Ruby, etc. etc. I disable them all, and this whole configuration, this part of the code is coming from the NV chat configuration, which I really like to disable those. So this is the end of our options.lua. So let's open another file, which is what we have next. We have mappings. So let's move on to mappings. So here are some basic options for key map and setting the leader to space map leader, and I enable silent and no remap to true for no recursive mapping, and whenever I press some key binding, so it won't show in the command line. So these are some general mappings which I use to quit out of neovim, select everything, and shifting with indents like this. So let's move on to windows. So these are key bindings to manipulate the windows, like splitting and moving in tabs like this, and whenever I split, I can jump between them like control H, L and K, whatever I want, like this. So let's close it, and what do we have next? Okay, we have a new file option, which is control N to make a new file. That was simple, and these are for moving around between the buffer line tabs, and this is for deleting the tabs. Like if I go to the options.lua and I press leader X, so it will delete the buffer from my current buffer line. And these four key bindings are for resizing the window. That's it. So if I make a vertical split, so I can resize it by these key bindings like this. So then we have splitting keybinds like I showed earlier, and then we have an oil.nvim. These are starting off the plugin specific keybinds like oil.nvim. Oil.nvim is a much needed plugin. Like old days, we use neotree and nvim tree to explore in our file. It's a basic file manager for neovim, but nowadays I use oil.nvim, and I really like this plugin because it's let you enable that you can edit your file directories and files like a buffer. Like you can append, you can edit whatever you want, and if I want to add a new file like new.txt, and if I save and OK, it makes a new file. Pretty cool. If I delete, then it will delete as expected. So highly recommended plugin. Okay, then we have telescope related plugin. I mean telescope related key bindings. Okay, so there are a set of key bindings which I highly recommend to you have. So first one is find files, which is a basic functionality of telescope, which you can find any file, whatever you want. Then you have switch branches. Okay, if you want to switch branch, then this keybind is very useful to you. This is not a Git repository, so that's why. Okay, this is, I'm not in a Git branch or Git repository or Git directory. That's why I can't use this command to execute. So let's move on to next key binding, which is like graph feature. So I can key map, and it will show every matched file with this keyword. If any file has this key map type of word, then it will show here. So what we have next is showing for help tags. Then we have fs for my snippet library, like this. Every kind of snippet is accessible from this telescope, which is very useful when I'm doing my competitive programming contests. So then what we have, okay, then we have our configuration telescope key binding. You can see whenever I want to change something in my neovim configuration, I can do leader fc, and it will open whole directory in this telescope. So I can search anything like vim fugitive, and it will open the file no matter where you are in your folder structure. So now let's move on to the formatting options, which is I use inbuilt neovim formatting options. I think this is the best way to format your code, because it will find the corresponding LSP server to format that code, and if it is not, I mean it's unable to find that LSP server, then it will try as best as he can to format the code. I think this is the best one to format. I can show you here, like I indent it and I leader LF, then it will reformat this file. Okay, Then we have a Spectre, which is the not that plugin which I uh, really use a lot, but this is a good plugin to have because it's let you global find and replace in a whole project. So this is the most recommended plugin I have ever seen. So this is the Vim fugitive. If I have any Git directory and I open it in with neovim, then I can do every Git manipulation inside the neovim with like a buffer. I will show you this in action later in this video. And these are some build commands for my computer programming. These commands simply run your files, whether it's Python, C++ or anything. It will compile, split in, it will open the terminal in a split view, and you are able to copy paste your test cases and whatever you want. So I will show these commands in action later in this video, and these are simple. This is a keybind for my generating my competitive programming samples, which are very useful when you are dealing with a very large test case to whenever you have a very large test case to test with your code. So you have to look line by line and compare with your output, and then you can match. It's very time consuming, so you have to copy the test cases and then try to automatically test them with this script. So it's very handy feature. So these are the end of our mappings. Then we can go to our auto commands. So these are some basic auto commands which I use, and I'm using this highlight option. Okay, so this is the auto groups. I use generally only one group, which is a general group, which is a bundle for our auto commands, which is every auto commands really needs. I think it's not necessary to have a auto group, but it's very handy to group your all auto commands in a single group. So that's why I create an auto group in called general. So let's continue with our all auto commands. So here we have closing with Q whenever I open any manual, like if I open any help like telescope, and if I want to close this buffer, I can simply press Q. So it's a very specific key binding which is very useful. And this is a yank post auto command. Whenever I copy something like this, so it will highlight what I copy. This is auto command which I'm not sure what it is. I think this auto command is deal with format options, which I'm whenever I auto format any file. So another auto command is whenever I open a quick fix list in neovim, so it won't able to listed in buffer line or any buff line. So it is very helpful when you have open any quick fix list and it's open a new buffer like this. So to prevent this, we have this auto command. Whenever I open a terminal, like whenever I compile and run my code, so these options will act like this, and I disable number and relative numbers to false, which is not needed in compiling and testing my code, and I enable escape to go into normal mode, which is very useful. So let's close this and let's open. So we complete our core folder, and let's go to our plugins folder. As I mentioned, base folder is not necessary to have. It's just my configuration, my specific configuration for my color scheme. I use Cat-Puccin color theme, but I really I modified it to NVChad because I like very much the NVChad color scheme for Cat-Puccin. So let's simply move on to plugins, which is auto pair plugin. Auto pair plugin is a very simple plugin which is compare your braces, parentheses and quotes, whatever you're thinking, which is provided in VS Code or many modern code editors. So this is a simple configuration of it. So let's go on to auto tags. This plugin is very useful when you have when you're dealing with React or any modern frameworks which has JSX or TSX kind of syntax. So it is very useful, and it uses tree sitter to complete these auto tags. Like whenever we open a tag, then it generates a corresponding ending tag to it. Okay, let's move on to next plugin. It's just a blank line indentation. I mean, it marks all the indentation, like these are lines. These vertical lines are marked by this plugin. Where, let me show you. So you can see here are two vertical lines which are showing what are indentation levels for every block of code. So this is the next plugin, which is bufferline, which is known to everyone. It shows a buffer like this, so you can see there are buffer open in tabs. So I configure this to have tabs because I like it the most. So, and I have a offset whenever you, so this configuration is from whenever when I using tree nvim tree in my file as my file manager, but nowadays I'm using oil.nvim. So if anyone has nvim tree as plugin manager, this setting is very necessary to have, because when you have open your nvim tree and buffer line at the same time, then they are getting collapsed with each other. So buffer line provides this setting to enable, so to provide avoid that confliction. Okay, let's move on to another. This is just for whenever I have colors like this, so it will enable all the colors. I mean, visualizing all the colors. It's very necessary to have when you are building a project with CSS, Tailwind CSS, to imagine what color are you using. So let's move on to the next plugin. We have color scheme. So this is, you can see this is a very simple config. I simply enable the Cat-Puccin color scheme, and then I override its colors to NVChat color scheme, which are coming from base, theme, and Cat-Puccin. This, so these are the color palettes and icons override, which let me enable the NVChat color scheme, which is very cool color scheme in my opinion. So let's move on to completion. So this is the basic, I mean, this configuration of completion is I think same for everyone, because it's a very general configuration which is already mentioned in the documentation of what is this nvim cmp. So it's nothing much to explain in this configuration. I just add these two lines, I mean not these two lines, these two configuration for enable the completion for path, not path, for buffer and cmd line, like whenever I type something, so it's auto complete it. Let's move on to another plugin, which is dev icons, to enable those dev icons, like this Lua file has this icon, and I overrides them from the configuration file I show you earlier, like let's say base Cat-Puccin. Okay, so these are the icons which I overrides. Okay, so let's move on to dressing.lua. Dressing.lua is simple a UI plugin which lets you enable whenever I open this input box or select box. So it uses telescope and a great UI to show your selection and everything. So great plugin to have. Formatting is done by null.ls. I mean, null.ls is archived repository, but there is a new version called none.ls, which uses null.ls, I mean null.ls under the hood to format your code. And this is just the basic, it's a basic structure to have of your none.ls configuration. And I'm enabling all the source, like for these are the source, like black is for Python, isort is also for Python, style Lua is for Lua, and if you want to format your JavaScript and other files, like you can mention it here also. So let's move on to another one. Git science, it lets you enable all the change line, modified and deleted lines at the current time when you have in a file. I'll show you in later in this video in action. So then we have a really big file for LSP configuration. Okay, so let's start with here. We have diagnostic configuration, which whenever I open the LSP docs, so it will show as a bordered docs, like here, and whenever I hover on like whenever I open this docs, so it add border and this rounded corners. So this is a very cool configuration. And what we have next, so this configuration lets me enable in the real time diagnostic chains, like if I'm in insert mode and I delete something, well, this was not this, so it shows all the diagnostic in the insert mode, which is very useful. These are some key bindings which you already know about. I'm using LSP Saga to go to the definition and docs whatever it is for LSP. I show you in the later, like when I press GD, so it will uses LSP Saga and move my cursor towards the definition where it is defined. So let's reopen the new Vim and go to plugins, and we have LSP configuration. So these are the simple key maps. You can go through it and read it carefully. These are some basic options, and we are mapping our icons to them, which are really a custom one. You can add whatever you want. So these are some configuration for LSP servers like Lua LS, CLand, and I generally have to disable those automatic insertion of STV libraries. Like whenever I type a vector and I press enter, it will include automatically the vectors header file, which I don't like because I'm using a whole new bits standard C++ header file, which has already included those sub header files. So I disabled auto import of header files. Then we have all the basic LSP server configuration. This is not so special, nothing too special here. Then we have LSP Saga. I just install it and I enable it. Very simple and very effective. Lua line. This is a plugin where you have this status line. This is a great plugin to have for your diagnostics and git changes and whatever. Let's say I close this and I go to my git repository, like tab dot files. So as you can see here, we have neovim and we have plugins blank line. So this is a git repository, so you can see here the git branch, in which branch am I currently in. So you can see git signs are enabled and it shows the last committed of this line and who is made it and when is made it and what is the commit message here. So this is the git signs configuration. And if I add some line, so you can see git signs add a green kind of line which shows addition of line which are not committed yet. And then if I save those changes, so you can see here in the Lua line we have this +1 which shows you have uncommitted line in your git repository. So let's go to back in plugins, and we have markdown preview. It's just a plugin to preview your markdown files, nothing special. Then we have Mason to install our LSP servers and all of the formatters and linters. Then we have oil.nvim, as I mentioned before. So you can see here all the configuration and key bindings. Then we have snippets. So I'm using the Lua snippet engine to perform all the snippets. Like when I'm in a C++ file and I press like let's say lazy propagation, so it will hold the template for my lazy propagation segmentary template. So it's a very handy plugin which I recommend all the computer programmers to have. Then we have Spectre. I just simply enable it, nothing too fancy here, and I don't really use this plugin a lot, I mean just to have it. Next is Telescope, which is a highly recommended plugin to search your files, your branches and whatever you want. So let's say I'm in a directory called my project called what it is, Node.js chat application. So you can see here we have some branches, like 3 branches: feature, main and refactor. So if I go in there, and if I mentioned a key binding before of Telescope, so I will show you in action, like leader GC, which uses for switching the branch. You can see here I am in a feature branch right now, and if I want to go to the main branch, I simply type main and I enter, and you can see the branch get changes. So let's move on to feature and let's close it. You can, so this is the best time to show you the fugitive envim. If I press leader G, so it will open the fugitive window, and you can see here are some changes which are not pushed yet, and some stage changes, some untracked files and everything. So very useful plugin to have. I can simply open this fugitive window and simple press S to stage all files and U for untracked all files. Very useful plugin. Okay, let's go to neovim plugin and plugins, where it is. Oops. Okay, then we have tree setter to syntax highlighting, auto completion of braces like this, and auto indentation. It's very useful plugin, and you can mention all of the language which you are using to install them automatically. So let's move on to Vim commentary to comment all of the stuff like GCC. I mean GCC. Why it is not happening? Let's say okay. Now it's working. I don't know why it's not working before. I think the event is very lazy. That's why. So you can GCC and comment this line, GCC and uncomment this line. So then we have this Vim fugitive, which I already mentioned, and then we have tmux navigator. So let's open the tmux. Then we open the new Vim window. Then we create a new one, not a separate one, just split, and you can jump across the terminal window in neovim by this neovim tmux plugin, which is very handy when you are developing a whole full stack project, which is very bad to have and quit every time when you have to quit neovim every time when you have to change it from client to server and whatever in a directory. It's really good to have this plugin. So let's see what we have. So I think we are done with all our configuration. I just it's just one thing left to show, which is the compilation and testing my code script, which uses this. I show you. Wait, go to coding and scripts. So here we have run samples. It's a shell script which I'm using under the hood to test my samples. It uses a long flag train to compile my stuff, and then it runs all the tests against it. So that's a simple script which is available on my GitHub repository. So let's say you have cp base and okay, let's remove him, and we have main.cpp. Let's make it simple. So we have a simple main snippet of C++, and let's just see out hello world if I can type. So if I press leader or R, then I can compile this whole file. You can see hello world message is pop up. So then if I want to run test against it, then you can see here I have to go towards the Codeforces website and pick a question like 2, 5. So these are the contest, and let's see the full link. Alright, the site is pretty slow as always, and let's go to this one. So if I go to this and my submission, not this, my submission, I have this. Okay, let's copy it. So I replace this code, and let's say I have to download all the samples for this question. So let's go to this. No, it's not that question, this one. So remember what is the code for this problem? It's a 1932 problem A. So let's press leader P, go to the Codeforces and press the code 1932A. Whenever I press it, you can see here's a message pop up called sample fetch successfully. Then you can see in all.nvim there are 2 files are generated which has the sample inputs. Now you can press leader or T to test your samples, which you can see here all are passed. So this is the whole configuration of my neovim. If you like it, you can make it yours by simply going to my GitHub repository I mentioned. You can go to lot files and you can have the whole configuration here. So this is it for this video. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.